All right, today's Saturday, I think it's April 19th. Yeah. So it's Easter weekend. I know US markets were closed yesterday and not much action going on yesterday, but still had a pretty interesting week leading up to the long holiday weekend. And it's it's pretty interesting what's happening now with tariffs. See Trump going back and forth with the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, and what's in store for for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. So, but all we can do is really look at the charts and see what position ourselves for the best opportunities, right? So, with that said, I'm going to go into the three FX pairs that I trade or I do analysis on, and then we'll swing over to the stock market, or I should say, taking a look at the ones I'm watching, which are a few ETFs and Nvidia, which is one I like to watch. I don't really trade or like looking at individual stocks. I prefer sectors. So ETFs are something that I really enjoy trading, and it's pretty much all I watch when it comes to stock market prices. But anyway, so let's get into the Euro USD price action. And I'm still holding long. I mean, long positions are well established. I'm in a good place in terms of market movement to the upside. And I know we got a little bit of a pause, so we had just a slight. I mean, volatility and you know market participants are not really trading on Friday, so you just had like a tiny green candle and not really much going on towards the end of the week. But it seems like we still have some resistance here. However, I'm not fully convinced that we are ready to pull back. Yeah, I do expect a pullback. And even back here, I mean, this is a small pullback. It's just one candle going to the downside. But I do expect a pullback. But right now, it doesn't look like we're going to get that pullback just yet. Could be wrong, but I just don't see it yet. If you look at it's all about perspective as well, right? So if I scale the chart all the way up, it makes it seem like we had this huge run up, and then we're gonna, it's run up so much that we're gonna eventually get that, that pullback, right? But when I scale it down and I expand it, it just looks like the beginning of the beginning of an uptrend, basically. So I think that's also important when it comes to analyzing your charts, right? How you perceive the chart, and that kind of might give you a good read. But anyway, so the first thing I was expecting a pullback. Just for this trend line that I was looking at here, right? Take this support area, and we are going to connect to this resistance area, and we did have a resistance all the way back here. I think April 3rd or April 4th. And that's when we had that gap down and that huge drive up to follow up. So I was looking for more of a pullback into this trend line here. And 1.12 was one that I was watching, because if I look at the pivot points, the yearly pivot points, right, I have that median level right in there, right around a little above 1.12, right? So wanted to see if we were going to get that pullback. Right now, it's hovering around that intermediate level, basically around 113-ish, almost 114, and it really hasn't moved from here. What I'm really interested in is 115, 1.15. That's where I want to see what happens if we get up here, and are we going to continue, or are we going to pull back from that 115, because there is resistance up here. This is resistance 2. Usually when we get around resistance 2, we get some pullback, but all things go out the window once if a trend is really strong, it'll just keep on going. And I feel like we eventually will get that over that 1.15. And I'll show you now here, because I'm not really looking at the Euro USD on a daily. I mean, that's where I look to position myself when I want to enter a trade. That's it's crazy to think about, because a long time ago I used to think the daily time frame was more of a longer term perspective. Now I look at the daily, I'm like, okay, that seems like with a shorter time perspective. So that's very interesting how, as you go on in trading for so many years, it's like your perception of things change. But the daily is where I look for my entries. Now, if you go over to the weekly, and let me just remove this trend line here. I was talking about in the previous video about that expanding broadening pattern, right? It's kind of like an inverse triangle. And once it expands outward, and I'll just give a quick sample here, illustration here, what I was drawing last week. Usually we'll have two trend lines diverging away from each other. The price action will start small, right? Because the trend lines are close together. And this is just, again, illustration, right? It's not always going to be textbook perfect, but you'll see price bouncing between these levels. Sometimes, the upper trend, it'll hit the upper trend line more. Sometimes it'll hit the lower trend line more. But eventually it'll come down here and then drive all the way up. Now you have a lot of sellers, right? The bears will come in and let's see resistance here and be like, okay, I'm going to look to sell. But what usually happens is that price continues higher. Once it starts trading back, it will pull back a little bit and just continue higher, right? Sometimes, of course, right? There's always different outcomes, but sometimes you'll see a drive and it won't pull back at all. It'll just keep on going. So putting that into the analysis, if I zoom in here, we're trading above this trend line, right? We had that resistance here, a couple of resistance points, a couple of weeks here, pull back, and then we had that strong drive, just like I illustrated above. So we closed above it, and now we, on that low liquidity week, it's dried up, right? We had no volatility this past week, so it's really a small candle. Now the question is it going to pull back a little bit and then continue higher? I think that's a strong possibility. So I feel safe with long positions as of right now, especially if we stay above 113. But that 115 level is very important, because if I pull up the 10-year pivot points, you can see let me go back to the daily quickly to show you. We hit that median level, okay, and overall we're still trading below that 10-year pivot. That 10-year pivot is right below 1.22. I think about 1.217. But we found that support. Now we hit it pretty much on the button, 114.70, I believe it was. But we're right in here. So if I go to the weekly, you see we're finding resistance right in this area right over here. Okay. If we start trading above 115, I'm going to feel really confident about us moving up to 1.2. I feel like we'll see 1.2 in Q3, Q4 towards the end of the year. But again, the first hurdle is that 1.15 area. So if we move over to the monthly, you can see what I'm saying here. We have, let me just hide this just for a moment. Out of the previous descending triangle, we made that breakdown, right? We had that strong base for I don't know how many years. We had 2008, then on 2010, and then again 2012 before I finally cracked and we start trading below, right? But that area has been acting as a resistance for many years, right? 2018, then again 2020, 21. Now I believe that we will continue higher because we have that broadening pattern, or I should say, I don't know what exactly the name, but it's right-angled broadening pattern. But the top trend line is flat. I forget what it's called. I think it's called right-angled or something like that. Anyway, again, a lot of these patterns that I got is from the book Encyclopedia of Chart Patterns by Thomas Bulkowski. So if you want, you can check that out. But again, this looks like it's going to be a drive up to that previous resistance area, 1.2. Based on how these patterns usually play out, I could see it going above 1.2, 1.22, maybe trading at 1.3. How long is it going to happen? Definitely a few months, right? Depending on the crazy volatility or what kind of news we get. but I can certainly see this go up to 1.2, which is where I would like to exit all my trades. But once we get here, I would like to reevaluate and see what we got, what kind of price action we're going to get around this area. Now, if I put back the 10-year pivots, you can see that the main 10-year pivot is at 1.217. So that's a very interesting area to watch for. If we start trading above 115 cleanly, that's one I want to watch for, and that's going to be a pretty interesting area to see if we hold that, or if this pattern plays out, we will be trading above 1.2 for sure. And I would say 1.3 is not out of the question. So that's pretty much my analysis on the Euro USD as of right now. I remain bullish, especially if I zoom out just a little bit, and we see here the MACD. We had that base right around 2015, and we made that higher low this 2022 with the Euro USD making a lower low, right? So I feel like this divergence is still playing out, and we're going to continue making that drive up to 1.2 plus. If we quickly look at the 3-month, or otherwise known as a quarterly chart, you got to remember we still have this folding wedge that we are obviously broken out of. So again, this just pushes the bullish case for the Euro USD, and I feel like the US dollar is going to continue getting hit across the board, considering everything else that's going on in the economy. So that's Euro USD. We'll move on quickly to the pound dollar. I'm not really trading the pound dollar, but I am keeping an eye on its price action. So I don't have any positions on it. But again, we have a expanding broadening pattern. This one, you can see the slight resistance, right? It looks like price is slowing down right around this area, and I'm sure you have some bears, you have some some traders trying to go short here, but it's trying to stay weak, but this looks like it's going to crack over and then use this as a base to find support to continue higher. If I look down here, there's some divergence. I guess you can make a case for it, but if I zoom out, or I should say go to the weekly chart, you can see again that pound dollar has that similar Euro USD broadening pattern, or broadening bottom pattern, I should say, right? You have this flat resistance here back in 2018, then you have that resistance again, 21, and I feel like we're going to continue up to test that area again. I'm looking at 1.4, or probably, depending on how strong it drives up, 1.4 plus. And if I really zoom out, you can see all the way back here, that broadening top pattern, right? You have an angled trend line to the upside with a flat, strong base. We have that base here from 93. Then we had that base again from 2000 to 2002, and then 2009 all the way to 2015. It's had that strong base until it finally cracked down, and then this area has always been hit by resistance since I would say February 2018. So I think we're gonna continue higher and hit that 1.4 area again. If we put on the if we zoom out or zoom in, I don't know why I keep saying zoom out, but anyway, on a monthly chart, it looks a lot more clean. You can see how that price action is developing, and that again, that 1.4 area looks like a good target. I don't have any positions on the pound dollar, but this looks like a really very similar outlook to the Euro USD. If I plot on the pivot points for the year, or the 10-year, I should say, you'll see the pivot point right around that area of resistance, 1.412. I expect us to be trading above 1.4, going towards the end of later in the year, but I can see this definitely going above that. So this is again bullish case for me. I'm bearish right now on the USD, across the board. So bullish Euro USD and bullish pound dollar. If you go over to that quarterly chart, we still have that wedge playing out, right? We pulled back, and then now we're starting to trade higher. So again, I expect the US dollar to keep getting hit, And let's move over to the yen, the dollar yen. Don't really see anything on the daily chart, so I'm going to start here on the weekly. And we have that broadening pattern finally looking to break down. Now, if I look here with the dotted lines, we have that broadening top pattern with a flat base. So I'm expecting for us to be testing 1.40 again, and then eventually break down into what I'm looking for is 133. But I could certainly see 135, 136 getting hit. And from there, I don't know. I don't really have a clean read on the dollar yen, but I really like this trade. I'm involved. I have a small position on the short side that's going well right now, but I don't know if we get to this base, are we going to pull back up and test this trend line again before another move down, or are we going to get a lot of aggressive selling and then just like crack down below 1.40 and just break all the way down until we reach the 130s? So that's what I'm looking at right now. USD, JPY, dollar yen, and I'm bearish on this pair right here. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have. Nothing too crazy. Again, going back to the Euro USD, I would like to stay above ideally 1.13, but if not, I could see 1.12 being an area of support. But if we start getting more, aggressive buying, then 115 is going to be the area I'm going to be watching for sure. And that's the area that I want to see if we're going to get over and finally break up to the upside to clear the way for 1.2, 1.22. Right, that's going to be the area that I'm looking to start clearing our positions if we can get there. All right, just moving on quickly to the ETFs that I'm watching. Well, I'll start off on NVIDIA actually, because that's one that that a lot of people start watching. Where's NVIDIA? Okay. If I move over to the monthly, let me just hide this for a second. Now, this is a very interesting chart. You guys know, if you look at my previous videos, I love broadening patterns. I love them, whether they're bullish and bearish, because they work so well. Obviously, we know that things are not always 100%. That's a fact, right, when it comes to trading. But this looks like a very interesting, development right now. You have that resistance here, pullback, another big run. Then you had that resistance again, pullback. Now it looks like we're in the midst of that pullback process again. How deep will this pullback go? With everything going on, that's who knows, right? But if we look down here, we can see the RSI making a triple divergence while this is going up. Now, overall, this is a bearish pattern, but we want to see what's going to happen with NVIDIA, tariffs. Trump might say one thing today and change his mind the next. So, the chart looks clean, but you're just very unsure, right? But again, this looks like, according to the RSI divergence, you got these triple, tops in terms of new highs in accordance to the divergence. This one looks like an interesting play. And if we start trading below 100 again, I can definitely see us moving below 80, maybe 70s, right? Could go lower than that. A lot of people don't believe it can because it's such a strong tech giant, right? NVIDIA's been around for a while. They have a lot going on for them, and a lot of people can't see that happening. But if you've been trading any time, you know that sometimes things you think that can happen will happen, right? Just look back to 2008, Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns. I know it's a different situation, but a lot of people thought that couldn't happen, and it ended up happening, right? So NVIDIA is one to watch, especially if it starts trading below 100, 90s, maybe even 80s. Trading below that might either be, an opportunity for a very good buy, or, there's something else going on and then we could trade much lower, right? So NVIDIA is an interesting one to keep an eye on. Other than that, see if anything else here. TQQQ is one that I really like. And again, this is another broadening pattern. We have that divergence here. This is a monthly chart. And this looks like it's still, still has some legs to go lower. I can see TQQQ trading below $30. If it starts breaking this trend line, $30 is a possibility here. If I pull up the MACD again, we both have MACD divergence. We have divergence on the RSI, and we have a large broadening pattern, which is bearish, right? TQQQ is one of my favorites to trade. As of right now, I don't have anything on it, but as of right now, I feel like this still has the opportunity to go lower, right? But again, depending on all the factors that goes on with the economy, and again, all these breaking news and announcements causing volatility, right? So that's pretty much all I have for now. This was a good break from all the craziness that's been going on, and definitely with an extended market market pause, right? But I'm pretty sure we'll be right back to it on Monday, and the craziness may resume. I don't really see any upcoming news, any major news, but again, breaking news can happen, right? When it comes to, like I just said, tariffs, Federal Reserve, interest rates, what they're going to do, what they want to do, what might happen, and things like that. But right now, I am bearish across the board of USD, and I expect it to continue. Stock market remains to be seen, see what's going to happen. But as of right now, I think we're still more on the bearish side until things are a little bit more convincing that we're going to make a turnaround. All right, so that's going to do it for this week's analysis. I usually do it on Sundays, but since tomorrow's Easter, I will be busy and prefer to do it on Saturday for this week at least. So yeah, that's going to do it. That's going to be a wrap for this one. I hope you enjoy your Easter weekend and also enjoy the break from all the volatility that's going on. So I will see you in the next video. And like always, good luck and trade safe. I will see you in the next video.